Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Dhiya Feby Andriani from class 12 3 of SMA Negeri 4 Kota Tangerang. Today I would like to present about narrative text and I will use the story of Snow White as the main example. So, what is narrative text? A narrative text is a type of writing that tells a story with a clear sequence of events involving character, setting, and a plot. Its main goal is to entertain the reader or listener, but it can also visualize, share an experience, or convey a message through the story. Narrative text can appear in many forms such as fairy tales, folk tales, myths, legends, fables, and modern short stories. They usually have a beginning, middle, and end, often featuring a problem that the characteristic must solve. Famous examples include Cinderella, Marikundang, and Snow White, each delivering a moral or value in judging storytelling. Now, let's talk about the characteristic of narrative text. The first characteristic is that narrative text use the past tense because the event already happened. For example, Snow White lived in a kingdom or the queen was jealous. The second characteristic is the use of time signal, like once upon a time, long ago, or one day. There's no way that the story happened in the past. The third characteristic is that narrative texts always have specific character. In Snow White, the characters are Snow White, the queen, the seven dwarfs, and the prince. And the last characteristic is the use of imaginative language. For example, a talking mirror, a passion apple, and a true love kiss. This makes the story more magical and enjoyable. Next, I will explain the schematic structure of narrative text. There are 5 parts: orientation, complication, evaluation, resolution, and coda. Let's go through them one by one using Snow White. The first part is orientation. Orientation is the beginning of the story. It introduces the character, the setting, and the situation. In Snow White, we are introduced to a beautiful prince who. The first part is orientation. Orientation is the beginning of the story. It introduces the character, the setting, and the situation. In Snow White, we are introduced to a beautiful prince who lived in a kingdom with her stepmother, the queen, from the beginning. We also know that the queen was jealous of Snow White's beauty. The second part is complication. This is when the conflict began. Without complication, the story would be boring. In Snow White, the queen asks her magic mirror, who is the fairest of them all. The mirror answers Snow White. The queen becomes very angry and jealous, so she orders her husband to kill Snow White. That is the main problem of the story. The third part is evaluation. Evaluation is when the story builds suspense and becomes more exciting. In this story, the husband could not kiss Snow White, so he let her go. Snow White then found a small cottage in the forest that belonged to seven dwarfs. For a while, she was safe, but the queen found out that Snow White was still alive. She disguised herself as a woman and gave Snow White a passion apple. This part makes the reader nervous and curious. Will Snow White survive or not? The fourth part is resolution. Resolution when the problem is solved. Snow White ate the apple and fell into a very deep sleep. Everyone thought she was dead, but later a prince came and kissed her. The kiss broke the spell and Snow White woke up again. The problem was solved and she was saved. The last part is coda. Coda is the ending of the story, usually with the moral lesson. In Snow White, the princess lived happily ever after with the prince. The moral of the story is that kindness and true love will always defeat jealousy and evil. Narrative text also have language features. The first feature is the use of action verbs like ask, can, ran, and hidden, live. These verbs make the story dynamic. The second feature is the use of past tense, such as Snow White lived in a kingdom or the queen was jealous. These features make the story clear and consistent. So, to include my presentation, narrative text is a tool entertain the readers. It has four main characteristics: past tense, time signal, specific characters, and imaginative language. It also have 5 segmentic structure: orientation, complication, evaluation, resolution, and coda. And finally, it uses action verbs and past tense in the language features. This is all from my presentation about narrative text explained through the story of Snow White. I hope my explanation is clear and help you understand about narrative text. Thank you very much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.